Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with a very important topic today. Although some of you may think that it's a little negative topic, it's going to be talking about Maraka planets and Maraka houses. My last video was on Badhak sthanas and Badhakesh, which are the obstructing houses and the planets ruling those houses which become obstructing planets. So I thought that maybe we should have a video on Maraka planets as well, and Marrakesh. Maraka are the killer planets, and Marrakesh are the rulers of the houses which are Maraka houses or killer houses. So those are the terms used in Sanskrit. So we're going to be talking briefly about that topic today, and a lot of sages have mentioned about Maraka planets and Maraka places. Now, Maraka does not necessarily mean that the planet will kill. Of course, the concept of Maraka is given by the great sages in their ancient scriptures focuses on death only, death inflicting capabilities and the timings and everything. And a lot of astrologers say that no, Maraka is not about killing, but no, I will have to say that yes, Maraka has been clearly explained as a concept about killing of a native or the death of a person. Although, once again, I'll repeat that it is not necessarily related to killing. It could be giving major diseases or major problems in life as well, but we'll be talking about death per se, very specifically in this video. So the sages have explained that the two houses which are the houses of longevity, we all know those houses are the 8th house and the 3rd house. So what the sages have described is that any house related or any house 12th from the house of longevity would be considered a Maraka house or a killer house, so as to say, just to make it a straight translation here. So 12th from the house of longevity will be considered a Maraka house. It makes a lot of sense. 12th is the house of 12th house is a house of Vyaya or expenditure, or which goes away. So whenever longevity is expended or it goes away, that house will kill or become a Mark Sthana or a Maraka house. And the lords of those Mark houses would be called the killer planets or the Marrakesh, as it's called in Sanskrit. So which are the 12 houses from the house of longevity? Well, the 12th house from the 3rd house, which is a house of longevity, is the 2nd house. And the 12th house from the 8th house, which is also a house of longevity, is the 7th house. So the 2nd house and the 7th house become Maraka houses or killer houses, and the lords of the 2nd house and the 7th house become the killer planets or the Marrakesh. Now the sages have also explained that out of the 2nd and the 7th house, which are the Mark sthanas or Maraka houses, sthana means house for people who do not understand Sanskrit. So out of the two, the sages have explained that out of the two, which are the 2nd house and the 7th house, which one is the more powerful Maraka? They've actually classified that, and the 2nd house is considered to be a more powerful Maraka house. I'm not talking about planets here. I'm talking about the more powerful Maraka house or a Maraka sthana would be the 2nd house as compared to the 7th house. And the lords of the 2nd and the 7th would also be considered as marakas. So of course we've discussed that. The other thing which the sages have explained is that if there is a malefic sitting in either the second or the seventh house, which are maraksthanas or marak houses, they also become marakas, or the death inflicting planets. And are we talking about natural malefics, or are we talking about functional malefics? Both. So any kind of a malefic which is sitting in the second house or the seventh house, which are maraksthanas, also become marakas or killers, along with the lords of the second house and the seventh house. And in order of sequence, natural malefics are more powerful marakas or killers as compared to functional malefics. So natural malefics, which come under the category of Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, and Sun, also can be considered as a malefic. And then of course, if there is a functional malefic who is also a natural malefic, then it's a more lethal combination. So we have to look into that side as well, as to how powerful of a marker it is. So what happens? What is the timing? The timing is whenever there's a major and a sub period of these planets, the maraka planets which we just discussed, they can bring death to the person. Of course, depending on whether the person has a small span of life, or a medium life, or a long life. That has also been classified. A very long life would be 120 years, because Sage Parashara has described the Vimshotri Dasha as 120 years cycle. And a medium life, I would say, would be between 70 and 80, and a short life would be anything short. So and this is based on when these scriptures were written, and then the life expectancy keeps changing. I was told that when India got independence, the life expectancy of the people living in India was around 35 to 40 years. I may be wrong, but now it's gone up. So this categorization, or this classification, was made at the time when these scriptures were written, or these teachings were given by the great sages. So anyways, we discussed about the houses of longevity. We discussed about the 12th house from the houses of longevity. We discussed the maraksthanas, which are the 12 houses from these. We discussed that the houses become maraksthanas, and the lords of these houses become marakas or killers, and out of that, the second house lord is the more powerful killer. And also we discussed that if there are malefics sitting in the second or the seventh house, they also become killers. And we also discussed that malefics, natural malefics, are more powerful killers. We also discussed that even functional malefics have to be taken into consideration. We also discussed that a combination of a natural malefic sitting in a second or a seventh house, which is also a functional malefic, makes it even more lethal, more dangerous, and more capable of inflicting death. So this is what we discussed. Now, other than that, the sages have described that in case there is a dasha, or a period of a benefic planet which is related to the 12th lord. So he has not mentioned this great sage Parashara. The great sage Parashara has not mentioned that it should be the dasha of the 12th lord. He has mentioned very specifically that in case there is a relationship of a benefic planet which is there is a relationship with the 12th house lord. So a relationship has to be between a benefic planet, which is a natural benefic planet, related to the 12th house lord, that also can inflict death. And also he has mentioned the 8th lord also can inflict death, which is also equally dangerous, although it's not considered to be a maraka. But the 8th lord period, or the main period, can also inflict dasha, and it can assume the form of a maraka. Also, it has been mentioned that in case there is no relationship with the 2nd house or the 7th house, as we've just discussed about, they become the lords of the 2nd and the 7th become marakas. If there's no relationship, and if there is a dasha of a planet which is an extremely malefic planet, not considering their maraka capabilities, or the categorization, so as to say, which has been given to them as a maraka planet, meaning which, if they are not marakas in their planet, but they are extremely malefics, regardless of whether there's a connection between the 2nd or the 7th house, they also can cause death. So the great sages have given a lot of combinations, and it's extremely difficult to pinpoint, based on so many combinations which the sages have given, that planets can inflict death. So it becomes extremely difficult to find out which is the planet which will inflict death. So it'll come through reading a lot of charts and seeing. I know it's a negative thing to discuss and read about death, but of course that's a reality of life. So once we are studying Jyotish, we have to study this aspect of a person's life as well. So another thing, what the sages have mentioned, that we discussed about the 2nd house and the 2nd house and the 7th house, their lords, and we also discussed about a dasha of a benefic planet which is related to the 12th house lord, and we also discussed the dasha of the 8th house lord, and we also discussed about a dasha of a planet which is extremely malefic, regardless of the fact whether there's a connection with that planet with the 2nd house or 7th house or not. And these all become marakas. There's another thing which the sages have mentioned. They say that in case the planet Saturn is related to a maraka planet, or a death-inflicting planet, or a killer planet, Saturn will be the first to kill, in preference to the other planets. In terms of the sequence, you will consider how Saturn is placed, and you will first look at Saturn. In case Saturn is really badly placed and there is a connection with the maraka planet in the chart, so you can figure out what the maraka is, and if Saturn has a connection, in order of sequence, Saturn becomes the first to kill. So that also has to be taken into consideration, because as we know, that Saturn is a significator of the house of longevities, and if it is ill placed, we can expect all kinds of problems and death as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back with another interesting and informative topic in my next session. In the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you soon. Thank you.